let's go for a drive. I was like, are you gonna kidnap me? Can murder me? He's like, no. It's like
3 girls, 3 red flags, and one of them is still with her man right now, and they don't even know what we're about to get into. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which one of these situations you would have walked away from immediately and which one of these situations you probably would have fallen for.
Oh, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Good. When they tell you you can't wear this, or when they tell you you can't post this, like, what do you mean by that one? Like, is that your dad? Like, you can't fight? But also, if your man is telling you, like, oh, don't post that or don't wear that, it's because he looks at those girls in a sexual way. That's why he doesn't want other men to look at you that way. So whatever your man is insecure about or doesn't want you doing or blames you for doing that, even though you're not doing it, it's not you. You're not the problem. It's because he doesn't want you doing what he's doing to you. When he doesn't want to post you on his Instagram or just on social media, he doesn't want to post you and he has the excuse of like, oh, I just want our relationship to be private. Like, you mean private or a secret? Which one is it? Because your relationship could still be private and still post each other. You know what I mean? Like what? Like a bad bitch like you shown off. So the fact that he's hiding you, if you go through their following and it's a bunch of Insta thoughts, run. What that tells me is that he's just basically a that cannot control himself. Like really, that's so embarrassing when men do that. When they say that they love you within the first month of meeting him, he's love bombing you, babes. Don't catch the bait, okay? When he talks shit about exes, like literally every single one of them, it's giving you're the problem. When he always makes plans like super last minute, or he only hits you up at night. Like, are you a cockroach? Like, what the they don't even want a relationship, they probably just want a good night, if you know what I mean. Never respond to hey you up text, because it's giving very much minimal effort. That man does not want you, he just wants that poof. If you ever go to a man's house as a first date talking about Netflix and chill, no respectable guy wants to take out a woman of high class to his house. Okay, babes, like put yourself at a higher standard. If you always have to question what you guys are or how he's feeling about you, trust me when I say, when a guy sees what he wants, he'll get it. So the fact that you're asking, that's your answer, babes. If you find yourself caught up in a guy that does any of these things, run in the other direction and find another one. Like, trust me, what one guy won't do, 1,000 others will, okay? As always, I love you guys so much. Please go subscribe to my YouTube. It's gonna be in the bio.
If your man tells you don't wear this or don't wear that, it's because that's what he's looking at. Maybe he just doesn't want you to represent yourself as a whore. Presenting him as a whore. You know how it goes. It's never really the big blow-ups that push people away. It's always the little things, the nitpicking, that end up ending these relationships. But how many of those red flags have you dealt with personally and you just ignore? Comment the number of red flags that you heard her say that you've actually dealt with. Now, the next girl, I don't think she knew what she was getting herself into or the kind of guy she was dealing with. If you know, you know. But hindsight is 20/20, so let's see if she finally figured it out.
genuinely the biggest red flag I've ever seen in my entire life. Let me tell you the story because truly I have to talk about it. First up, we made plans to get ice cream. That's great. That's chill. That's casual. I love an ice cream date. He asked me to tell him when I was on the way, so I did. And then he proceeded to be 10 to 15 minutes late meeting me there. That's fine, but like I don't love having to like stand outside and look awkward, you know, that's uncomfy. We get in line and we start making small talk. You know, it's a good vibe. We're bantering. It's fine. He smelled so strongly of cologne, like it was kind of making my eyes water. So that was just like something to note. I mentioned, oh, I'm glad we came here because there's dairy-free flavors. I'm vegan. He's like, do you know where I'm from? No, sir. We've exchanged like 5 messages on Hinge. I don't know where you're from. I was like, well, I'm from Alabama.
Vegan.
Okay, so I think I was supposed to take from that he eats a lot of meat. I don't really know. We get our ice cream. He pays. That's kind. He didn't have to do that. That's nice. We walk out and he just starts walking down Carytown, which is like a street of shops and restaurants and things. And I was like, oh, guess we're going for a walk. Okay. So we start walking. He starts vaping. The entire time this man is vaping, which is just like not for me. And just was like, again, something to note. We talked a little bit about social media because that's my job. And at one point he's like, oh, why, like, that's your job? Like, a 12-year-old could do that. Okay, sure, just to fend my whole line of work, my career. Great, thank you so much. So I was like, well, I also, have my own platforms and I do my own channels and things. Like, well, what do you do on those? Do you TikTok dances? And I was like, no, I talk about books and reading. He's like, oh, I don't read. He's like, I've never finished a book in my life. This man told me he has never finished a book in his life. That should have been all I needed to just like get on out of there. But we were on a walk and I was like willing to, hear him out. He talked a lot about his roster and how his is precious. So he's very possessive of his women and doesn't want them to be with anybody else when he is with them because it's so sacred to him. But he has a roster and he's not going to give that up because it's just so easy for him to meet women. Like, even when he was in Kroger the other day, he's like telling me this whole story about how he asked some woman in a blue shirt which where's the bathroom, and then somehow he got her number. Unsure. I kind of missed some of the plot points along the way, but like, it's just so easy for him to date. Anyway, we keep walking. He's like, I need to show you my car. And I was like, okay. We get to his car and he's offended that I don't know what it is. It's an Aston Martin. I couldn't figure out what. He was like, James Bond. I was like, I read books. I don't know. I didn't know what an Aston Martin looked like. I'm sorry. He wants to take me on a drive. I'm stupid and I say, okay, sure. Let's go for a drive. I was like, are you going to kidnap me? Can murder me? He's like, no. It's like, okay. I don't know. I was trying to go with the flow. I'm trying. I made not the best choice. Couldn't figure out how to get the car door open. He comes over and opens it. And then he's like, what's in your back pocket? You need to check so your fat ass doesn't rip my leather. Okay, why my ass sat on those seats after he said that, I do not know. But just at every turn, this man was like, oh, have you ever been with anybody that's Middle Eastern? Because my family's from Kuwait. And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. Like, I've dated all different kinds of people. And he's like, oh, well, you're in for a wild ride and not just in the bedroom. Okay, well, that was all I needed to hear. Clearly, he and I were not a vibe. And my biggest takeaway from this is I need a man who reads. Just like, or has read a book would be a fantastic start, which just reiterates that the bar is literally in hell when it comes to dating. I am not trying to find the love of my life. I'm not trying to get married. I'm just genuinely trying to find a decent human being who like treats me with respect, and like has a brain and like some human decency and, just generally better human than that. So that's what's happening in my dating life. I cannot wait to write about this on my Substack because I feel like
Come on, lady. You know what time it was. You said you talked to him for like 5 minutes on Hinge, then you ended up in his Aston Martin. He told you about his roster. I'm pretty sure you've gotten a roster talk before, lady. Let me know down in the comments, chat. Has a man or woman ever told you that they had a roster and you just were okay with it? Or did you oppose it? Let me know down in the comments. She probably, took 2-3 hours to get dressed for that date. And he just told her like, hey, look, man, I have a roster. It's either you're going to be added to the roster or you're not. Men don't really warn you that they're not going to choose you. They just don't choose you. But if you got a soft heart, this last one really might get you in your feelings. It really might have you contemplating on what's going on in your life.
Why, when you're dating someone new, you should leave at the first lie. So last summer I started talking to this guy and we texted for about a day, and then the next day when he got off from work he asked me to FaceTime. So I was like, okay. So when we were on FaceTime we were just kind of talking, getting to know each other, and then I told him that I was moving because I was, and that was kind of just taking my whole entire life. And so then he had just mentioned that he rents out a basement, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, because around here like renting out a basement is totally normal. I mean, it's basically like having an apartment. Like you have a separate entrance, your landlord lives upstairs, the door to get upstairs is typically locked, so it's like really private, and yeah, it's like having an apartment. So then during that same FaceTime call, I guess he gets hungry and he goes upstairs. And I didn't say anything, but I guess he realized like what he was doing in the middle of doing it. And he was like, oh yeah, I just go upstairs to use the kitchen. Which I was like, okay, because that's not typical for you to go upstairs at all, ever. And especially not to go upstairs as often as using the kitchen. I mean, you use the kitchen every day, right? So I was like, okay, well, I don't know this guy. So I'm like, okay, maybe his landlord just thinks that he's like a nice young man, or maybe he's friends of the family or something, and they just are okay with him using the kitchen. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I just let it go. So then he goes back downstairs, we wrap up the conversation, and then that was that. So then the next day, we were on FaceTime again, and he was going to work because he works in the afternoon, and he was just showing me the yard, and he was like, ooh, look at this grass. I just cut the grass today. Doesn't it look so good? First of all, it didn't look good. But second of all, in my head, I'm thinking, I thought you rented out the basement. You don't cut the grass. Like, you don't do any kind of duties like that when you rent out a basement. So I didn't say anything, but I'm like, okay. So I was like, in my head, I know exactly what's going on, but I made up an excuse for him, and I was like, maybe he rents from an elderly person, and it's like an agreement that they have that like maybe he'll give him cheaper rent if he cuts the grass for him. He didn't tell me that. That was just something that I completely made up in my head because I knew what was happening, but I was like, you know what? Maybe. So then about a week goes by, and I finally go there, and I pull up to the side of the house. We walk in through the back door just like you're supposed to do when you rent out a basement. And we go in there, I look around, and I'm just like, okay, it's kind of nice. It's like a small bar. It's not like a wet bar or cabinets or anything. It's like more like a party bar. And then there's like a sectional sofa, the TV, everything, like a normal living room. And it was definitely like a bachelor's pad type of basement. And then he showed me where his room was. I didn't go in there, but he just showed me, like, that's my room. So then we're just sitting on the couch, we're kind of talking, watching TV, and then I hear footsteps come down the stairs. And I'm like, and he says, yo, like, basically signaling whoever that person was to not come downstairs. But the person ignores him, and it's a girl, and she comes downstairs. She walks right across the room in front of the TV, and she goes into this other room on the other side of the basement, and she goes in there and closes the door. And I just look at him, and I'm like, and he was like, oh yeah, they just come down here to do their laundry. And then at that point, I know exactly what is going on, because you go upstairs to use the kitchen, they come downstairs to do their laundry. Really? So I just say, oh, okay. And so then we continue to talk for about another week. And then I go over there again. Same thing. He comes out and I walk in through the back door. Yada, yada. Same old, same old. And then we were just hanging out. When it was time for me to leave, he walks me to my car. We're kind of just wrapping up the conversation. And I was kind of just like looking, I guess to him, it looked like I was looking out into space. And he was like, why don't you look at me when I'm talking to you? And I was just like, because there's someone watching us. And he was like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, there's somebody in the front door and they're watching us. Who is that? The way the front door was set up at his house is like, it was a front door, then the storm door, but the storm door had like frosted glass, and the person was standing in the storm door. So all I could see was a figure. It was kind of creepy. And he has a bad memory, so at the time, I guess he forgot that he told me that he rents out the basement. And so he was like, oh, that's just my mom. She's in my business. And he doesn't even realize what he just did, because he forgot that he told me that he'd rent out the basement. So at that point, I think I had somewhere to go, and I just wanted to leave. I didn't argue about it, so I just let it go. And then later that night, he had FaceTimed me, and I called him out, and then I was like, you told me that you rent out a basement, but you don't rent out a basement. You live with your parents. He's like, yeah, I rent the basement from them. I'm like, no, you live with your parents and your room is in the basement. Because if you truly rented the basement from your parents, you wouldn't go upstairs to use the kitchen. They wouldn't come downstairs to use the laundry. Like, you go upstairs every day. Like, you live there. You eat up there. I saw you one time eating up there. Like, you don't do that when you just rent the basement. And it's your parents, so that's totally fine. But it's like, that's not renting out a basement. That's living with your parents. And I just want to set a disclaimer that I genuinely do not care if somebody lives with their parents, no matter what age you are, because, I mean, it is what it is. Life is life, and times are hard and whatever. But don't lie about it. I'm not really one to make part 2s on videos, but this video is getting kind of...
She knew what was going on. She ignored it. Like she said, it's not really a big deal, but all three of these women have the same thing in common, is that they knew what was going on. In every single one of these situations, they knew what was going on. They chose to remain. So which one of the three had the biggest red flag in your opinion? Let me know down in the comments. I normally don't do part 2s to videos like this, but if you have a personal video that you would like me to react to, comment it down below and we might do a part 2 to this series. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, hype the video, and grab a membership so you get to see these videos first. I'll see you on the next one, chat. I'm out.